Hey everybody, welcome back to the potting shed. I thought I'd just give you a few ideas on what you can be doing at this time of year. It's the end of December, coming up to New Year, and what I'm doing is just having a bit of a sort in the shed and cleaning some terracotta pots. I did buy a couple of nice little cacti yesterday, but I'm holding off repotting them until the spring. And what I tend to do is I bring some terracotta pots and plastic pots into the house, and I get some nice hot soapy water, and I use a fairy antibacterial washing up liquid, and just as hot as you can get that water, as hot as you can stand it, and give those pots a good scrub, and the antibacterial agents will help to kill off any pests. I did find some slugs overwintering in some of my older pots outside, so it's good to give them a good clean. Brush them out first, put them in some hot soapy water and give them a good clean. Just put them on the draining board to dry. There's loads you can be doing at this time of year, and inspecting your cacti and house plants is an important one. We have touched on that before. I did find a plant that was infested. I'm going to cover that in a little while. It has had a couple of sprays to break the life cycle. But yeah, go through your cacti, your houseplants, your succulents, especially if you've bought some new ones, because you don't know what might be on those plants that you're bringing in. So have a good check through. You can give the leaves a bit of a wipe with a damp cloth if they're very dusty. Don't get your cacti wet, do not water them. Even if they are looking sad and begging you for water, they will rot if you give them a drink. So bear in mind, these plants are some of the toughest plants on the planet, and they will do without water until about April. The plants I've got on the windowsill are all young plants, some from cutting, some repotted, and I'm just keeping them covered up. I've got a heat mat underneath, just in case it gets really cold. Checking the bigger cacti as well. They're just under some bubble wrap. They are quite hardy, as long as the plants aren't wet or humid or the roots are wet, they will get through the winter 9 out of 10 times, so don't be tempted to give them a drink. The temperature does get down quite a lot in the shed. There's no heating in there apart from the mats, but it does. They do get through the winter. The other thing I'm doing here, it's not perhaps as clear on this camera, I'm just having a bit of a tidy up in the shed. Get in your shed, get in your greenhouse, have a good clean, a good tidy, sort your compost out. Have a look at what you need for the new growing seasons, because it'll be upon us before you know it. Once your shed's tidy, get your tools out, have a look, give them a brush off, get any dirt off, and then you can give them a bit of a treat. I've got an old tea towel that I've got out of the kitchen. I'm not using it for drying the dishes anymore, but it makes a great cloth. Recycle it, makes a great cloth for putting a bit of oil on and giving your metal tools a wipe over. I'm just using a hand brush to get the worst of the muck off, and then a bit of oil on the cloth, the recycled tea towel, and then give your tools a good wipe over, and the coating of oil will prevent your tools from going rusty. And you can also put a bit of oil onto the joints of the moving parts to keep them moving freely. If you do this, your tools are going to last a very, very long time. That trowel that I'm showing you now is probably about 40 years old. It was given to me from an elderly pensioner in the past, and it's as good as the day it was bought. The secateurs I've had for about 20 years. I just give them an oil each winter. Always clean them off when they're finished. And they'll last you forever. You might need to sharpen them occasionally, but a bit of tool maintenance is really good. It's a case of just taking these grey days when things aren't growing very much to have a look at your growing spaces, the greenhouse and the shed, and just have a bit of a tidy. You might need to go to the garden centre and get some compost in. You might want to start having a look through some seed catalogues at what you can order in for the spring. So these dark nights, sat in front of the fire, get your seed catalogues out, make a bit of a plan, give your tools a bit of a clean, make sure the shed's nice and tidy, the greenhouse is organised, and then once it starts to warm up, we can really get started on stuff. Have a decide what type of veggies you want to grow, if there's any fruits you want to buy. There's hundreds and hundreds of seeds out there. Some easier to grow than others, but you start small, and your knowledge and your experience will gain each time you do it. Do it with the kids. buy some seeds, let them grow some sunflowers. We might do that in the spring, and you know, they'll never forget it. My kids certainly haven't. So the cacti that was suffering from pests, I've sprayed it a couple of times. A good way to put it into quarantine once it's been sprayed is to get a Ziploc bag. Like I say, give it a spray first and then pop the cacti into a Ziploc bag. It's a bit of a tight fit this one, it took me a little while. And then even though you've sprayed it, if there's anything that you've missed, if there's any pests or eggs still to hatch, it's in a Ziploc bag, it's in quarantine, nothing's going to escape. And the next time it comes out of that bag, it'll be for another spray or to rejoin all the other cacti on the shelves once it's had a clean bill of health. Yeah, it's a good way to just ensure that the pests don't spread. Just having a quick look at the carnivorous plants. These are perennials, so they do die back in the winter. I've got some in the house and some in the greenhouse. You can see they're a bit brown, they're looking a bit sad. You know, that is natural. I've seen people cut these back and then they'll sprout again in the spring. Plants that I've put underneath protection, this is in the greenhouse under horticultural fleece and bubble wrap. They're doing okay. Again, I've not watered them and they seem to be okay. It's been a mild winter though. You can see some of the bulbs that we planted back in October just starting to show. They're just starting to poke through. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. Spring is on its way. So bear with it and prepare for the new growing season. Hope you've enjoyed this. Please give me a thumbs up if you have, and Happy New Year everybody.